Good evening and welcome to Footy Classified. So much to get to tonight. St Kilda, Melbourne, Essendon and Carlton all on the agenda, and a Cal Toomey exclusive on the Sydney Swans. Plus, rising tension between Channel 7 and Fox Footy. Let's welcome in the panel, five-time All-Australian James Hird. Welcome to you.
Tom, great to be here. Thank you.
And Matthew Nix out. Two-time Adelaide Best and Fairest Ross Lyon in. G'day, Sloaney.
Much more hair from me, Tom, so great to be back.
And leading AFL.com.au journalist Cal Toomey. Hello again to you.
Hello, guys. Good to be back. Tom, let's start with the Saints because they've lost 8 out of their last 10 games and there's more change on the horizon. What can you tell us tonight?
Yeah, at some stage. So what I can tell you tonight is that St Kilda has unofficially earmarked AFL Hall of Famer, Geelong great Corey Enright to succeed Ross Lyon whenever it is that Ross Lyon decides his time is up. Now, he's contracted to the end of 2027, Ross. There's no suggestion at all that he's ready to step away anytime soon. But players, football department staff, and I'm told even Ross Lyon himself believe that he is the person to take over whenever that time comes.
2027 is not too far away. Is it a Josh Carr-like handover? Is it that formal, or are you saying it's...
No, it's informal at the moment.
Right.
I mean, I think when Corey Enright came into the club, he was an assistant coach. Robert Harvey was probably the one that would take over from Ross if and when that happened. But in the last 12 months, Corey Enright's been elevated to 2IC. He's now the game plan and strategy boss behind Ross Lyon, and they rate him so highly. I think the only thing that stops this, to be honest, Cal, is that Chris Scott departs Geelong and then Geelong swoop on Corey Enright.
How highly rated is he internally amongst the players?
Yeah, so highly rated. I haven't heard a bad word about Corey Enright. We talk about Adam Simpson, we talk about Nathan Buckley, we talk about John Longmire, but I believe Corey Enright is the best assistant coach out there that hasn't been tried yet.
So would other clubs be looking at him then too?
I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would. I think he's next in line. And we haven't spoke about him much because he's been at St Kilda, not that much success. But Ross Lyon loves him. And everyone at the club believes that he will be the person to take over from Ross eventually.
But if you're speaking as highly of him as you are, and people around the Traps are speaking that highly of him, surely if there's a club that comes out of a coach this year, he could go. I mean, he can go anywhere, can't he? He's not tired.
Well, that's the issue, and that's what happened, Cal, with Sam Mitchell and Collingwood, and that's what forced the Hawks' hand in the first place. And what we do know about St Kilda is that there's been lots of changes since Ross Lyon took over, and an unbelievable amount of changes. This is his club in every sense of the word. He started with a mandate that he would be Ross the boss in more ways than one. And look at some of these names that have come in, but also some have come out in a matter of just over 2 years, really. And what I can tell you tonight as well is that Tim Barber, the long-time doctor at St Kilda, has informed the club that he'll be leaving at the end of the season as well. He's down the bottom there. So this is a club entirely in Ross's image, and if it succeeds, it'll be unbelievable. If it fails, it will be entirely on Ross, and I think everyone's comfortable with that.
But he's done that everywhere he's gone. I mean, the first St Kilda iteration, that was the way he did it. The Fremantle iteration, that's the way he did it. I mean, that's Ross's way. If you don't like it, get out of the way. If you do like it, stay. But I just think that if you're going to employ Ross Lyon, that's what you have to put up with, or not put up with. That's what you have to accept and want. And for me, that's what the president and the committee or the board have wanted, and good on Ross for putting.
Well, they're all on board.
That's too much change, Cal. That's so much change there. I don't know how one man can have that much impact and still focus on doing his role as a senior coach whilst undergoing all that change.
Well, he is doing his role as senior coach, and part of that role as well is in the list management side of things too, which is really, really integral in keeping players, the hopeful retention of Nazai Wanganeen-Miller and the hopeful attraction of players as well in Tom De Koning. Like, Tom De Koning now is at a point where he wants to know where Nazai Wanganeen-Miller is going to be playing his footy next year, and Ross Lyon is a big part of that process as well.
But Rory, why don't you think that's appropriate? I mean, if you're senior coach, you're worried about whether this person's backing you. Everyone's got to be on board going in the same direction. I realise you've got to have people who challenge you, but don't you want to senior coach people who believe in you alongside you? Absolutely,
but you need people in those positions to manage staff, I believe, and you need a senior coach. Your senior coach has got so many players to deal with and football staff in that manner. That's where your sole focus needs to be as a coach. Otherwise, I think you can get poor performance.
But his focus can still be on that, but just put people in to do the other roles that he trusts.
Did you have a big influence in that sort of...
Ross has got a lot of control.
No, I didn't, but I was a second-year coach. This is a guy who's been... Is he 15, 16 year in the system? He's been there a long time. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but if I was Ross going back to St Kilda, I would want a lot of autonomy to do things the way I want it, and people to support you. Because the worst thing as coach is people around you that you're wondering, am I being backstabbed? Do they not support me?
Well, that's what it looks like he's got at the moment. He looks like he's got a group that supports him clearly if they've got a clear plan around this till 2027.
And it'll be judged in hindsight whether they succeed or whether they fail.
And I think they're all comfortable with that as well. So Carl Delina's on the same page as Andrew Bassett, who's on the same page as Ross Lyon. Jack Steele's the captain, Cal.
Yep.
What's his future at the club, given he's contracted for another couple of years?
Yeah, so he signed a 5-year deal at the end of one of his best seasons, the end of 2021. That was when he was a back-to-back All-Australian. a dual best and fairest. Since then, we've seen the accolades drop away. Now, what I can say is that despite the contract, clubs are considering trade approaches for him. Now, a lot of water has to go under the bridge before he leaves the footy club as a captain. It takes a big deal to happen. But on the midfield market, he's a name that has been mentioned amongst clubs. And as a 29-year-old, can someone bring him in to play a role straight away out of their midfield?
And he is a reluctant captain, Jack Steele, as well. He doesn't necessarily love the role. He's in it because he feels like he owes the club because they voted him in. But it's not a role that comes naturally to him either. So that's a watch next year, of course, if he's still at the Saints, as you mentioned. You broke a big story last week around what the Saints are doing in regards to the AFL and the academies. What can you tell us tonight?
Well, they're leading the charge on this crusade, aren't they? And these are some of the recommendations that they put to the AFL Commission. Guys, they want the abolition of the Northern Academy zones ahead of the 2025 draft. They know that's not going to happen this year, but it's a bit of an ambit claim to get some of the other factors put through. I think part of that is to tighten up the screws on some of the loopholes that are coming through the Northern Academy and also the NGA system. But they are really, really strong on this front, and they're trying to lead the charge. Now, they're out there by themselves on this one publicly. Privately, there are some support for it. I just don't think that going for the throat of the Northern Academies is going to get anywhere in the way of the AFL.
Can we just put that back up for a minute? Because what I don't understand is the first line of the second line. So they're after the abolition of the Northern Academies, but the inclusion of Queensland this way in the redistribution of NGA zones. That's a subtle difference, or is it a big difference?
It's a big difference because the NGA zones is part of a review that's happening at the moment from the AFL. NGA gives clubs access to multicultural and Indigenous players. Okay. The Northern Academies for the Giants, the Suns, the Swans and the Lions is anyone in their region that they've developed and been a part of their academy. So a big difference in terms of the access to their players, and they want them to just have an NGA zone like every other club.
I don't think that's the right move. I think having New South Wales players playing in New South Wales clubs and Queensland players playing in Queensland clubs is essential to the growth of the game, and it broadens the pool. The kids we're talking about in, let's say, the Gold Coast Suns Academy wouldn't have played AFL 20 years ago. They're a new addition to the talent pool, which I think is essential, and also gives young kids looking at the Gold Coast Suns or the Brisbane Lions, it gives them aspirations to say, I want to play for that club because I can see
Hurdy,
the pathway.
look at the draft. Pick 18 becomes pick 30. Pick 5 becomes pick 15. Is that an issue, Sloaney?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not equalisation. It's what we want, a fair and equal competition. And at the moment, we're not getting it. I completely agree with you. We do, yes.
You wouldn't have those players in that pool, potentially.
Yeah, but how do we make it easier for Victorian clubs to get in amongst it as well? Because it's, and I'm talking about other states.
Just get their mothers to fly overseas for
that's a chat for another day.
This is their point. Their picks are getting pushed back and back and back in a time when they're trying to rebuild.
Would this have more traction if Collingwood was leading the charge on this, or a top 4 side? Is this falling down the sort of pecking order because St Kilda aren't winning?
And some clubs have these views, but they're not going to share it. If Collingwood had this view, well, they got Nick Dacos and got a premiership out of him. So they're in different biases all over the place.
And what's your view on the father-son rule?
I was just about to touch on that too, because I agree that should be demolished.
Abolish the father-son rule.
Yes,
Sloaney, come on.
Abolish, yes.
It's really.
I get why fans love it.
Not fans, but football people love it. I mean, it gives the lineage of people to play at the same club.
It's
history as well.
Yeah, I get that.
Because you get that for the Victorian clubs, and then you get the New South Wales, Queensland clubs having a different rule. It all balances out.
You've got SA and WA in there too, which we can't forget about. But then the thing...
Sorry, Roy, I know it's a touchy point for you,
very touchy point. But no, I'm big on, there's enough stresses at the moment in football. Then you add an added stress of a father-son coming in.
Why can't you have father-sons now? Why can't Adelaide Crows? You've been around long enough.
We've got a few coming in, but I'm just saying that's another added stress. I've seen guys come in and that hasn't fit them. And I know if my kids were coming through, I don't want them to follow my footsteps. I want them to find their own path.
You led a pretty good life.
Pro supporters aren't like
that's not good. That's not what they want at all. Hey, we've got to move on now because today the AFL confirmed that it has repurchased Waverley Park. I understand it's a sum between $10 and $15 million, which is far less than what the developers wanted and what Hawthorn wanted. Nevertheless, the Hawks will move out of that and they'll move to Dingley. The AFL will move back in and they'll use this premises for AFLW and umpires and various other means. Cal, this has been a topic for some time now. What does it mean for Melbourne Football Club, if anything?
Yeah, this will push the surge to get them back as Waverley as their home base. So their home training administration centre. These decision from their point of view is that they're not even considering looking at Waverley as their new training and administration base.
Why wouldn't they be considering Waverley?
Well, they are fully focused, and we'll get to the statement from Melbourne Footy Club in a second. They're fully focused on their Caulfield Racecourse option and the option in Glen Huntly in that region. If we look at some of their words today, I spoke to the Footy Club, been progressing plans on new TNA facility that better supports our players, staff and the wider community. Club has been working on a suitable location in the Caulfield Racecourse Reserve. We're in productive discussions with stakeholders around that.
How far away, realistically, is their move to Caulfield?
Oh, it has to be 8 to 10 years, doesn't
So
it?
for the next 8 to 10 years, they're going to be based at Amy Park, at Gosh's Paddock, rather than go to a facility. And I know that's a second-hand Hawthorn facility.
I think that's the issue. They don't want to be taking over somewhere.
Well, they're taking over a second-hand Collingwood facility at the moment.
Well, at the moment, then they're in Collingwood's pool house, aren't they? So.
Well, they've got two different facilities at the moment. They don't want Hawthorn scraps. They believe they can redevelop Caulfield Park, quicker than that.
Well, even as 5 years.
Yeah.
Spend the next 5 years there. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
One thing that doesn't make a lot of sense either is when there's a clash of dates, and this is something that we haven't seen before. On August 28, the AFL and Fox Footy have locked in the All-Australian Awards night. On the same date, August 28, Channel 7 and SEN are scheduled to broadcast and host this year's Legends match, which was formerly the EJ Whitten Legends game. This is a clash because it pits Channel 7 one broadcaster against Fox Footy, the other broadcaster. You have a charity match with lots of viewers and lots of entertainment on one channel, and you have a AFL lavish gala on the other. And the reason that it can't be on the Wednesday is because that will be the night that Gold Coast play Essendon, and they've got AFLW on the Friday. So that's certainly one to watch, and it's building tension behind the scenes. And it also might have an impact on the Rising Star Award, Cal.
Well, it will have an impact on the Rising Star Award because, of course, there's a potential of a nomination coming out of that final game of the last round. So the AFL has told clubs tonight that the Rising Star winner for the first time will be announced on Brownlow Medal Night, which is going to be a really good moment. But logistically, this has been made the shuffle because in case a nominee comes out of that last game, in case there's an MRO issue as well. We know eligibility is an issue as part of the MRO situation and the Rising Star nomination. So really looking forward to seeing this happen on Brownlow Night. In the past, up until 2019, the Telstra Rising Star had its own function, its own event. Really prestigious day. Now it'll get that moment on Brownlow Medal Night.
Who's your tip?
I'm a Murphy Reid or Harvey Langford fan.
So what would you rather watch, the Legends game or the All-Australian on TV?
Well, are you playing in the Legends game?
Absolutely not.
If you were playing, I'd rather watch you.
Have you been invited, Hootie?
I have, but I had a hip replacement a year ago. I got a text message said, "Would you like to come and play?" I said, "Unfortunately, I barely get out of bed." So
I ran with you. I got an invite, but I can't play. My eyes are no good anymore.
No, what would you rather watch? No, seriously, what's more appealing to you?
You'd rather them not. I'm just going to sit on the fence. You'd rather them not on the same night because I really enjoy both of those.
But they're going to be, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to be on the same night. And again, it's just another little battle behind the scenes between the two host broadcasters